The pavement on Commercial Drive was chaotic, jammed with late afternoon traffic and vendors packing up their stalls. In the mix of bus horns and the smell from a poutine truck, a girl on a scooter pulled over. Her name was Maya, a grade 12 student from a local public school. Her old scooter was a faded dark blue, chipped but still clearly cared for. Her canvas school bag, logo visible, hung from the back seat. Maya was just coming home from a tutor session. She was planning to stop at a market for groceries. But her plan was interrupted by a harsh shout from across the street. "Hey, stop! You!" A heavy-set Vancouver police officer, with a hard face, was approaching a DoorDash courier. His voice was high and full of pressure. The officer was Constable Miller, known on the drive for his short fuse and arrogant attitude, especially towards younger people or those he deemed small. Maya only glanced briefly. She'd heard stories about Miller, about how he'd hassle people for minor infractions, seemingly enjoying the power. She sighed quietly. But as she went to start her scooter, the same gruff voice made her turn again. "You too. Stop." Miller was pointing right at her. "Me, officer?" "Yeah, you. Where's your other mirror?" "That's a violation." Maya instinctively looked at her handlebars. It was true, her left mirror had snapped off 2 days ago after it was clipped. She hadn't had time to replace it yet, but she also knew this usually warranted a warning or a simple fix-it ticket, not this kind of aggression. "Sorry, officer. It just broke, I was going to replace it. I haven't had the chance." A classic excuse, Miller sneered, then looked her over. "License and ownership. Now." Maya politely handed over her learner's license and the scooter's registration. But before she could say another word, Miller reached over and snatched the keys right out of the ignition. "This scooter is being ticketed. And impounded." "Officer, I'm not refusing the ticket, but..." "No buts. You think I don't know your games?" His voice was rising. People started to watch. A few vendors whispered. "It's Miller again." Maya tried to stay calm. "I just need to grab groceries for a minute, sir. I'll pay the ticket, whatever the rule is." Miller looked at her with a crooked, unpleasant smile. "You want this to be easy. If you want this to go away fast, you can just pay the fine now. $500 cash. And we forget this happened." Maya's face tightened instantly. "Sorry, sir. I'm a student. I don't have that kind of money. And even if I did, I'd rather follow the rules." Miller let out a short, harsh laugh. "Oh, a saint, are we? Lots of people say that. They all pay eventually." His tone was cynical. He looked her up and down, high school sweatshirt, worn-out sneakers, a face scrubbed clean. In his mind, she was an easy target to press. "Fine. I'm holding this here until you think hard about it." He shoved her scooter roughly onto the sidewalk and, pulling out a cigarette, lit it. Maya stood her ground. "Sir, please don't be like this. I'm just a student." Miller blew smoke in her direction. "Yeah? Well, students should know the rules instead of making excuses." A small crowd was forming. A woman from the nearby bakery whispered to her neighbor, "Shame on him. He does this all the time." Suddenly, the DoorDash courier Miller had been harassing earlier spoke up. "Hey, man, leave her alone. If you're gonna write a ticket, just write it. Why are you yelling?" Miller turned his glare on him. "You want to get involved?" "I'm just saying, man. She's just a kid." Miller took a step towards him. "You feel like a hero. I can write you up too." The tension spiked. Maya looked at her scooter, now sitting precariously on the curb. "Officer, please. Don't be rough. I need that scooter for school. Miller suddenly looked at Maya with a sharp, cruel glint in his eye. I'll teach you who runs this street. Before anyone could stop him, Miller flicked the still-lit cigarette toward her scooter. It landed perfectly on an oily rag tucked under the seat, one Maya used to wipe down the engine. In an instant the rag caught. Fire! Fire! People yelled. Maya screamed and ran towards it, but bystanders held her back. The flames grew shockingly fast, engulfing the vinyl seat and the old plastic bodywork. Black smoke billowed into the air. Maya could only watch, her face numb, her eyes burning. The scooter her mom, Sarah, had bought her, working 2 years of overtime at her small baking business, was now a melting wreck. Meanwhile, Miller just stood there, hands on his hips. That'll teach her, he said coldly. The crowd started yelling, that's too far. You burned a kid's scooter. Miller glared. Quiet, all of you. This is police business. Maya slowly turned to face him. Her tears had stopped, and her voice was flat. You think I'm just some high school kid, don't you? Miller just smirked. Aren't you? Maya looked him straight in the eye. You just destroyed property my mother worked her hands raw for. And you just made a very big mistake. The air was silent, save for the crackling of the dying fire. A middle-aged man emerged from the market crowd. He was fit, with a commanding presence, wearing a simple jacket and jeans. The crowd instinctively parted. Hey, that's Mr. Evans, someone whispered. Maya's dad. Miller turned, annoyed. Who are you? The man walked slowly, taking in the burning scooter, then looking at his daughter's tear-streaked, soot-smudged face. I'm her father, he said, his voice flat. Your daughter broke the law. Missing equipment. And that's a reason to burn her scooter. The man's voice was calm, but there was something cold and sharp beneath it. Sir, this is a police matter. Stay out of it, Miller said, still trying to project authority. David Evans stared at him for a long moment. I'm making it my business. Because you just disgraced the uniform you're wearing. Miller looked confused. What do you mean? I'm a retired RCMP staff sergeant, David said. I'm currently the lead ethics and de-escalation instructor at the Justice Institute of British Columbia. Miller's face drained of all color. The noisy crowd went completely silent. Maya just looked down, tears of relief and anger mixing. David looked at his daughter. Maya, you wait here. I'll handle this. Then he fixed his gaze on Miller, sharp as a hawk. You have any idea of the legal and professional consequences of your actions? I was just enforcing the rules, sir, Miller stammered. Enforcing the rules by burning evidence. By attempting to extort a minor. By intimidating a civilian. That's not enforcement. That's a criminal abuse of power. Miller was silent. Other VPD officers arriving on the scene just looked at each other, afraid to speak. David stepped closer to Miller. Take off your badge, he said, his voice low but absolute. You're done. I'm reporting this directly to the OPCC and your superintendent tonight. Miller looked down, his face pale. Sir, I'm sorry. I lost my temper. Your apology won't bring back my daughter's scooter. But I can still teach you about accountability. Maya looked at her father with a mix of pride and sorrow. But the story wasn't over. That night, David and Maya sat on their small apartment balcony. The night air was cool. You okay, kiddo? David asked gently. Yeah, Dad. It just hurts to see someone be so awful, just because they can. David smiled faintly. Sometimes, the right thing doesn't win right away. But as long as you're on the right path, time will prove you right. Maya nodded, a new resolve in her eyes. I'm not going to be quiet, Dad. I want to help you report this until people like him can't hurt anyone else. And that was the beginning of Maya's journey. A girl who was underestimated but who would end up bringing change to her community. What they didn't know was that the next day, something even bigger was waiting. A fight that would shake the whole city. The next day, the atmosphere in Maya's home was heavy. The faint smell of burnt plastic and oil still clung to her jacket. In the living room, her mother, Sarah, was looking at a photo of the burnt-out wreck on her phone, eyes wet. That was our only one, Maya, her voice was quiet but trembling. That was 2 years of my baking business savings. Maya looked at her mother, her own eyes red. I'm so sorry, Mom. I couldn't protect it. Sarah shook her head, stroking her daughter's hair. You did nothing wrong, sweetie. The person who's wrong is the one who has no soul. David, dressed in neat slacks and a button-down shirt, came out of his room holding a file folder. His face was calm, but his eyes held a deep, controlled anger. We're not staying quiet, he said. I've already collected statements and video from 3 witnesses on the drive. They're all willing to testify. Maya looked at her father, impressed. Really, Dad? Yes. And this afternoon, we're going to the office of the Police Complaint Commissioner, OPCC. But their journey wasn't simple. As they drove down the street near the market, several people watched them from a distance. 2 men in unmarked clothing on motorcycles, wearing dark helmets, seemed to follow them for several blocks. David noticed them in the rearview mirror. He knew the look. Hangers on, he said quietly. Maya, don't look back. Just stay calm. Maya just nodded, but she could feel the tension in the air. At the OPCC, the atmosphere was formal and serious. The clerk at the front desk recognized David. Good afternoon, Mr. Evans. Filing a report. Yes. Regarding a Constable Miller of the VPD. Gross misconduct and abuse of power. The clerk nodded and directed them to a waiting area. Maya sat on the edge of her chair, her hands trembling slightly. She'd never been in a place like this. But this time, she wasn't here as a silent victim. Soon, they were called into an interview room. 2 investigators listened intently. David handed over a flash drive with the bystander video and photos of the burned scooter. This is the visual evidence, he said firmly. And here are the 3 witnesses who are prepared to give written statements. One of the investigators, Inspector Sino, watched the video on his laptop. His face hardened. This is a gross violation, Mr. Evans. He didn't just breach the code of conduct, he committed a criminal act. Destruction of property. Maya found her voice. Sir, I just want justice. I don't want someone like him to be able to hurt anyone else ever again. Sino looked at her and gave a small, appreciative smile. You're brave, kid. Not many people would come this far. That night, the incident exploded on social media. The bystander video of Miller burning the scooter went viral on TikTok and Twitter X. Justice for Maya was trending across Canada. Comments flooded in, how could he? This cop needs to be fired. Now. Props to this girl for standing up to him. But the popularity also brought threats. Around 10 p.m., a motorcycle stopped outside their apartment building. Someone threw a rock with a note tied to it onto their balcony. David retrieved it. Inside, it read, "Stop if you know what's good for you. Back off." Sarah was terrified. David, this is dangerous. It's fine, David said, his voice firm. I've already asked an old colleague on the force to do a quiet drive-by patrol tonight. Maya was silent. She knew her life had changed. But strangely, the fear was slowly being replaced by determination. If they think this will make me back down, they're wrong, she thought. 2 days later, an expedited internal hearing was held. Miller, in uniform, head bowed, was no longer arrogant. In the hearing room, Maya and David sat as witnesses. The board chair, a high-ranking officer with a heavy voice, opened the file. Constable Miller. Based on video evidence and witness testimony, you are found guilty of abuse of authority, public intimidation, and willful destruction of property. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Miller stood. His voice was small and hoarse. I lost my temper, sir. I ask for a chance to make it right. When given a chance to speak, Maya looked at him. There was no hatred in her eyes, just profound disappointment. Do you know, she said quietly, that scooter wasn't just a thing. It was my mom's hard work. When you burned it, you didn't just destroy property. You attacked our dignity. The room was silent. The chair finally brought down the gavel. The board finds Constable Miller guilty of all charges. We recommend dismissal from the force, effective immediately, and that his case be referred to the Crown for criminal charges. The reporters present started typing furiously. Miller hung his head, a tear rolling down his cheek. But for Maya, it wasn't a victory. It was just justice. A few days later, Maya went back to school. The atmosphere was different. Her friends looked at her with respect and awe. Maya, I saw you on the news. That was insane. You're so brave, standing up to him. Maya just smiled faintly. I didn't try to go viral. I just didn't want to let a bully win. In the cafeteria, her school counselor approached her. Maya, the dean of admissions at UBC wants to meet with you and your father this afternoon. They said it's good news. That afternoon, at the university, the dean shook their hands warmly. Maya, for your courage and integrity. And in recognition of your father's service to the community, we would like to offer you a full chancellor's scholarship for your undergraduate studies, should you choose to apply. Maya was stunned, her eyes welling up. Thank you, sir. I promise I'll work hard. David put a proud hand on her shoulder. See, kiddo. Sometimes, from a great wound, new strength is born. But there was one more event that brought a strange closure. A week after the hearing, Miller came to their apartment. Not in uniform but in simple, worn-out clothes. He was holding a small envelope. Maya and her father met him at the door, wary. I just wanted to apologize, he whispered. I lost everything. My job, my pension. But I deserved it. Maya looked at him for a long time. I forgive you, Mr. Miller. But I hope now you know how it feels to be small and powerless. Miller nodded slowly, tears falling. Thank you, kid. You're stronger than I ever was. After he left, Maya looked out at the evening sky. The sunset was a soft orange, closing a chapter of her life. She took a deep breath. Dad, I think maybe this was a test. To see who was really strong. David smiled, patting her shoulder. Strength isn't about being brave when you fight, Maya. It's about staying good when you've been hurt. Months later, Maya was accepted into the UBC pre-law program with her scholarship. Why law? The admissions interviewer had asked. She smiled. Because I've seen firsthand how the law can be used to crush people. I don't want that to happen anymore. Her interview answer, when published in the student paper, also went viral. And Maya's name finally became known not as a victim, but for her courage and conviction. The last night before she left for her dorm, Maya sat on the balcony, looking at the twisted, burnt frame of her old scooter, which her dad had kept in the corner of their storage locker. She looked at it for a long time, then smiled. I used to cry because this was burned. Now I'm grateful. Because this is where everything changed. The night breeze was cool and calm. Then she heard David's voice from inside. Maya, come eat. Mom made your favorite. Coming, Dad, she called back, laughing. Maya looked up at the darkening sky. In her heart, she held a strong belief that the truth, eventually, always finds its way. The story of Maya became an inspiration. Her name was mentioned in workshops about civic courage. Her video was reshared with captions, "Never underestimate a high school student who knows her rights." And on Commercial Drive, the vendors still tell the story to new folks, about the day a kid stood up to a bully in a uniform and won. It had been almost 6 months since the incident. Maya's name was still mentioned on social media. She was sometimes invited to youth panels or community workshops. But behind the spotlight, Maya felt her life was no longer the same. Days that were once simple were now filled with people's stares. At school, some friends respected her, but others were cynical. She's loving this attention, someone whispered behind her. Basically a TikTok celebrity now. Maya pretended not to hear, but it stung. She hadn't asked for fame. She'd asked for justice. The world often confused the two. One afternoon, she was walking home alone, taking a shortcut. Suddenly, a scooter pulled up in front of her. 2 men in dark hoodies got off. Their faces were covered. You Maya? Yes. What's wrong? Without another word, one of them grabbed her backpack. Maya fell to the ground. Hey, let go, she yelled. But as one of them raised a hand to hit her, a loud voice came from down the street. Stop. A young man came running. It was Liam, a classmate from her calculus class who had been quietly supportive. He tackled one of the men, grabbing Maya's bag back. The other men panicked and they both jumped back on their scooter and sped off. Are you okay? Liam asked, helping Maya up. They were both breathing heavily. A few scrapes. I'm okay. That didn't feel like a random robbery, Liam said. They seemed to be targeting you. Maya was silent. She knew that even though Miller was gone, he likely still had friends who weren't happy. Maybe this is part of the price, she said quietly. A few days later, Maya officially graduated from high school with honors. At the valedictory ceremony, the principal called her name for a special award. The award for courage and moral integrity. The applause was thunderous. Maya walked onto the stage, accepting the plaque with misty eyes. In the crowd, she saw her dad and mom standing in the back, beaming with pride. After starting at UBC, Maya immediately joined the Law Students Legal Advice Program, LSLAP, a clinic where law students help low-income residents. There she met her mentor, Professor Evans, a sharp, respected human rights lawyer and clinical instructor. I know your story, Maya, Professor Evans said with a gentle smile. It inspired a lot of people. Thanks, Professor. But I'm just here to learn. Good, Evans replied. Courage without knowledge is dangerous. But courage with knowledge is a force of nature. Those words stuck with Maya. Months passed and Maya began to help with real cases. One involved Mr. Sandhu, a small grocery store owner in Surrey, who was being accused of electricity theft by BC Hydro. He was being threatened with massive fines, but he swore his meters were legal. Maya and the LSLAP team visited his small shop. Sir, can I see the notice they sent you? Here, miss. But I don't understand all this legal talk. Maya read it quickly and looked at her team. This notice is legally flawed. There's no official signature. This looks like an intimidation tactic. That night, Maya wrote a detailed report and sent it to the legal aid office she was interning with. A few days later, the case was reviewed and Mr. Sandhu was cleared of all accusations. The news didn't go viral like her own story, but for Maya, it felt far more meaningful. "It feels different, Professor," she told Evans one day. "I used to be fighting because I was a victim. Now I'm fighting because I know most people aren't as lucky as I was." "And that, Maya," Professor Evans said, "is proof that you've grown into a true advocate." But life wasn't always smooth. One night, Maya received a call from an unknown number. "Maya Evans?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "If you keep sticking your nose in other people's legal business, you're going to regret it. The world isn't as clean as you think." The line clicked dead. Maya stared at her phone. Her hand was shaking slightly, but her face was calm. She looked at a photo of her family on her desk and whispered, "I'm not backing down." A few weeks later, she was invited to be a speaker at a campus event, Law, Morality, and the Next Generation. On stage, Maya wore a simple blouse. She began her speech without notes. "I used to be just a regular student. I thought the law was something for adults. Until one day, I saw for myself how someone could use the law to crush someone, not protect them. But I learned something. The law is only as strong as the people willing to uphold it with a clean heart. If we don't fight injustice, who will?" The room was silent. Many students were visibly moved. After the event, media outlets picked up her speech. Maya went viral again, but this time, in a different context. Not as a victim but as a leader. One night on campus, after a late LSLAP meeting, Liam came to find her. "Maya, you're incredible now," he said, smiling. "But I also worry about you. The legal world is tough." Maya laughed softly. "I know. But I'm not alone. I have people who believe in the truth." "Including me," Liam said quietly. Maya looked at him. There was a moment of warm, quiet understanding between them. From that day on, Liam often accompanied Maya to her community advocacy events. Slowly, their relationship grew, built not just on affection but on a shared fight. A year passed. Maya became well known in young legal circles. She began writing articles for national news outlets about police ethics and social justice. Her most read article was titled, "Justice Doesn't Need a Uniform, It Needs Courage." It was shared thousands of times, even read by senior police officials. Not long after, she received an official letter. It was from the Justice Institute of British Columbia, her father's workplace. "We would like to invite Ms. Maya Evans as a guest speaker for our new police recruit ethics training." Maya was silent, reading the letter. "Dad," she called out, "I've been invited to the Justice Institute. As a speaker." David looked at her for a long time, then smiled. "Look at that, kiddo. You used to fight injustice on the street. Now you're going to teach them what justice is." The day of the training, Maya stood in front of dozens of new police recruits. Some looked skeptical when they learned who was speaking, the girl from the Justice for Maya video. But Maya spoke calmly. "I'm not here to blame you. I'm here to remind you. You are wearing that uniform not to intimidate people but to protect them. Every small action you take, every minor decision, can change someone's life. The way mine was changed." The room was silent. Then, one cadet in the back, head bowed, began to clap. The others followed. And on that day, many of them began to understand the true meaning of their duty. That night, after the event, a senior instructor, one of her father's colleagues, approached her. "Thank you, Ms. Evans. You reminded us all what this job is supposed to be about. To serve and protect." Maya smiled. I just want you all to know, sir, that people want to trust the police. But that trust has to be earned. Every single day. The officer nodded. You've made us both ashamed and proud. A few months later, Maya received an award from the BC Civil Liberties Association for her dedication to community legal education. She accepted the award in a simple dress. Cameras flashed. As she gave her acceptance speech, Maya said, "I was just a normal high school kid who lost a scooter. But in that loss I found something bigger, that the truth is never something